Novices. And away they go, very sedately, for the Racing to School Novices hurdle. 2 miles half a furlong in front of the field, and a very, very quiet beginning indeed here as they saunter towards the first. Amongst those it'll be the front rank when they rise, Filou de Dissard and also Etat Major Olms. Held up at the back, Milady May. It's pretty much of a testament to be 12 lengths behind a pace as slow as this, but riders managing Ben Post to settle her that far back as they head on towards the second. So Filou de Dissard, quartered colours of Dog of War, then Etat Major Olms, while Max is settled on the outside and about 4th or 5th place on the inside of Folly Gate. They are the front quintet. Nafayes is testing Dave Cross in 6th place by racing quite freely. The almost white France de Rêve races on the outside of Horatio Star. Selling All the Time is about 4 from the back with a New Siege, and one of those that is pulling is Selling All the Time with Mr. Minerals, and at the back Milady May. So they swing back round the bend on ground now officially described as soft, and out in the lead Filou de Dissard sauntering along with Folly Gate on the outside in the orange colours and Dog of War between them. Wild Max towards the outer. Harry Cobden in the lilac jacket is wide on the course. Etat Major Olms in the white sleeve jacket tracks the leaders with the keen Nafayes. Then on the inside is Horatio Star, but they're very well bunched simply because they're not going that fast as the leaders head on towards the 3rd and 4th flights, which come pretty swiftly. Filou de Dissard, Dog of War, Nafayes on the inside. Wild Max jumped up well on the outside there of Folly Gate, and Wild Max now just seeing a little bit of daylight and has carted himself to the lead. So Wild Max jumps to the front as they make their way up past us. So Wild Max for Harry Cobden and Paul Nicholls in the lilac jacket. The pace has improved marginally as a result. In second place, Filou de Dissard, yellow colours with the white face, then Dog of War on the stand side, orange colours of Folly Gate for Lizzie Kelly, and then Nafayes in the noseband. Horatio Star comes next in the red, white and blue, and then just behind these, Etat Major Olms with France de Rêve the grey. Inside belongs to a New Siege at the moment in about 9th or 10th place, just ahead of Selling All the Time with Mr. Minerals and Milady May at the back. So Wild Max got to the front, has actually settled reasonably, and now it's Folly Gate who's pulled the way up into 2nd place. So the pace is still not strong despite Wild Max moving to the lead. So Wild Max with Folly Gate just applying a little bit of pressure, and as a result they've moved on by a length or so from Filou de Dissard, who will corner in 3rd place. Nafayes comes next with Dog of War. Ground around the outside for France de Rêve, 3 wide on the outside of Horatio Star and Etat Major Olms, as Wild Max leads them towards the first flight down the back straight. Just beginning to string them out. Horatio Star left a trailing leg. France de Rêve wasn't great over that, and a New Siege improves alongside that one as Wild Max leads a trio of pursuers towards the next flight of hurdles. So Wild Max in the lead. Filou de Dissard is one of those that is in that group with Nafayes, and on the outside races the orange colours of Folly Gate. So they're the 3 closest to the leader, about a length in arrears. And then behind these, Etat Major Olms with Dog of War, Horatio Star, and then France de Rêve as they still remain well bunched as Wild Max pops over the next flight. At the back of the field, Mr. Minerals jumped out to the right and is just beginning to struggle, and Horatio Star, just worse than midfield, is pushed along as well. So Wild Max towards the last in the back straight is out in the lead and continues to measure his hurdles well enough, and will lead out of the back straight with an advantage from in second Filou de Dissard, Nafayes in the noseband, pale blue colours, and then wider we have Folly Gate. Round the outside, France de Rêve the grey horse making progress on the outer of Dog of War. Etat Major Olms is in that cluster as well. A New Siege comes next with Selling All the Time, then pushed along Milady May. So these leaders are still pretty well bunched, but Harry Cobden's still sitting quietly out in the lead, despite the fact that he has a lot of horses stacked up in behind him. So Wild Max in the mauve jacket is now asked to press on. France de Rêve the grey on the outside begins to improve to try and throw down a challenge with Folly Gate, then Filou de Dissard. Nafayes comes next, and then towards the inside a New Siege. But Wild Max heading towards the second last, with France de Rêve still the closest pursuer. Wild Max jumped it well and still has the initiative, but having to be ridden. In second place is France de Rêve, Filou de Dissard towards the inside, then Nafayes and Dog of War. But again, Wild Max jumped the last fluently and is now about 2 to 3 lengths clear from France de Rêve. Filou de Dissard's run a nice race in 3rd. Wild Max shaken up and readily moves clear. Jumped well and is going to make it 2 out of 2. His form well franked this afternoon. Wild Max for Harry Cobden, Paul Nicholls and the owners group 36. Beat France de Rêve. Filou de Dissard ran really well in 3rd, and a good run as well at a big price from a New Siege, who came from the back of the field to finish in 4th.
Had that in control from some way out, Wild Max. They didn't get much of a pace at all early. Plenty of them were keen. You could attribute that to most of the field, but Wild Max took it up some way out under Harry Cobden to make it 2 out of 2 at Taunton over hurdles, and this time doing it under a penalty. The horse that he beat, Masters Legacy, had won the first division of this half an hour before, and it was over to Wild Max, and the German import didn't let backers down.
No, and I must say, I wouldn't get carried away with some of the horses who've not been beaten that far, because you look how many horses are there turning for home. They've absolutely crawled. I think the winner is far better value, value for far more than his winning margin. And I think one of the most impressive things about him, when the race is now sort of properly starting, I think he jumped the last two beautifully. He broke them low and quick, and he clearly has got a good jumping technique to go with his engine. Clearly the seconds run better, definitely run better than last time. But I say, I'm not going to get carried away with any of the horses in behind, because they've been massively flattered by the fact that they haven't had to exert themselves for a mile and a half of the race. So yeah, it's definitely a better race, and the bumper form in France tells you the horse has got ability, but there's some horses probably of limited ability, not beaten too far among them, just outside the placings.
The second, France de Rev, who was sent off even money favourite for the British debut. She has showed up better, but as I said, he was well in control by this point, and I think Paul Nicholls was on record earlier this year as saying one of the more recent German purchases that they've had was Irving, and if we were half as good as Irving, they'll be quite pleased, because he obviously went on to win at the very, very top level. Second was France de Rev. Philou des Isards, to, I suppose, go back to your point as regards them not being beaten too far, was on the front end with a bit of experience behind and hasn't actually been beaten very far at all.
No, and there's other horses who hadn't previously shown too much. I'm not saying there isn't promise among them, but they're flattered by finishing as close to a useful winner as they are.
We've got a selling hurdle next with a short price favourite for Gary Moore. Then after that we'll be going over fences. You can see a beaming Harry Cobden. We'll look forward to a big weekend at Cheltenham. Obviously the rain is coming down. The ground's been changed to soft all over it. It's expected to rain for the duration of the afternoon. So by the end of it, it's going to be reasonably testing.
Yeah, and I suspect Cheltenham's having some of this rain as well. I think all the country is. So yeah, I mean, it's been the theme of the winter so far, hasn't it? We've had a pretty wet autumn/winter.
As I said, hopefully no issues obviously this time with Cheltenham, but it was only a month ago that November meeting, first day was lost, wasn't it?
Absolutely, which is almost unheard of with their new drainage. So, and we then took place on very soft ground the next 2 days. So yeah, absolutely, it's a wet winter, which means a lot of the early racing has been more competitive than maybe it would have been. So there are good things to go with soft ground, but certainly it's going to be pretty soft all weekend, I would think, everywhere.
42nd winner of the season for the champion trainer Paul Nicholls, who's got a couple of runners declared for the Caspian Caviar Gold Cup on Saturday, a race that he's won 5 of the last 10 renewals of. While Max, 2-7 favourite, has won. France de Rev, 7-2, was second. Philou des Isards, 25s in third.
The Racing TV website has all the exclusive racing content you love.